Before we begin, if you didn't know, this channel is now demonetized. If you want to support the channel and help keep the stories alive, please consider joining the Patreon. Links are below. Now, I hope you enjoy this terrifying horror story. I need to write this down before I talk myself out of it again, the way I always do. I've restarted this post 4 times tonight and deleted it each time because it sounds insane when I read it back. But I've decided that if I sound insane, that's fine. Maybe I am. I just need someone else to read this and tell me what they think. Sarah leaves her mug on the left side of the sink. Always has, for the 3 years we've been together. She's left-handed. She sets it down without thinking, same as she tucks her hair behind her left ear when she's reading. Same as she reaches across her body with her left hand when she wants to grab something off a table. I know these things, the way you know anything about someone you've shared a bed with for 1,000 nights. You just know. About 6 weeks ago, I walked into the kitchen while she was washing up after dinner, and the mug was on the right side of the sink. I almost said something. Almost. But then I thought, why would I say something about a mug? She'd look at me like I was strange, and she'd be right. So I didn't. The next morning, the mug was on the left again, and I genuinely convinced myself I'd imagined it. Here's the thing. I'm going to be honest, because if I'm not, this whole post is pointless. I was hospitalized twice last year. Twice, and a third time the year before that. For something called Capgras syndrome. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But the short version is this. Your brain starts telling you that the people you love have been replaced by doubles. Imposters. The person looks identical, sounds identical, but something in your brain's face recognition circuitry disconnects from the emotional processing part. So when you look at someone familiar, there's no warmth, no sense of recognition. Just a face that your logical brain says, this is Sarah, while something deeper says that is not. I know this about myself. I know my history. I was discharged in October after 3 weeks inpatient. And I told the doctor, and I told the intake assessors, and I told my mum on the phone afterward that I was better. That the medication was working, and the CBT was helping me challenge the intrusive thoughts before they spiraled. I lied. I lied because I needed to go home. And mostly, I've been fine. I take the medication. I do the exercises. I recognize the thoughts when they start. But here's the problem. Here's a thing I can't explain away. It's not a feeling this time. It's not a sensation of wrongness, not a paranoid gut instinct. It's evidence. 6 weeks ago, the mug. 5 weeks ago, I found Sarah's search history open on the shared laptop. She usually clears it, not because she's hiding anything. That's just what she does. She doesn't like clutter. But she'd left it open, and I saw she'd been looking up how to make her lemon drizzle cake. The one she's been making since before we met. The one her nan taught her. She's made it from memory in front of me 6 times. She was Googling the recipe. She was reading the method step by step. I stood there for probably 2 minutes. Then I closed the laptop. 4 weeks ago, she called her best friend from school by the wrong name. Her best friend since they were 11. She said Rachel instead of Roisin. And then she laughed and said, God, sorry, don't know where that came from. Roisin laughed too. But I watched Sarah's face when she said it. And there was a half second where she didn't seem embarrassed. She seemed like she was correcting a data error. That's the only way I can describe it. 3 weeks ago. The smell. This is the one I keep coming back to. Sarah has always smelled. I know how this sounds. She has this very specific smell that isn't perfume. It's just her. Warm, a little like clean laundry, and something underneath that I couldn't describe if I tried. Just her. Every person has it. You know the smell of someone you love without being able to articulate it. I hugged her in the hallway after work, and I didn't smell it. I smelled soap. Clean, neutral, nothing underneath. I held on for a bit too long. She said, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, long day." I've been reading about that syndrome a lot these past few weeks, which I know is probably the worst thing I can do. But I keep looking for the line between symptom and observation. The difference between I have a delusional brain that invents evidence and I'm noticing real things. The clinical literature says that patients often construct elaborate explanations to justify the belief. That they'll cite small behavioural inconsistencies, changes in personality or habit as proof. That the more they look, the more they find, because the brain in that state is motivated to confirm. I know this. I've read it. I've read it and I said to myself, this is what you're doing. And I've sat with that thought and tried to let it dissolve that way the doctor taught me. But here's where I keep getting stuck. She said the thoughts feel real. She said the feelings feel real. She never said the evidence would feel real. She talked about it as a perceptual experience, an emotional one. She didn't talk about mugs and recipe searches and names and smells. Those aren't feelings. Those are things that happened. Last week, I did something I'm not proud of. Sarah went to her sister's on Thursday evening, and I went through her things. Methodically. I don't really want to describe how methodically. I went through her side of the wardrobe and checked her coat pockets and looked at her journals. Yes, I read her journals. I'm not pretending I didn't. And I found nothing. Her handwriting was right. The entries were right. She wrote about me in them, recently, and what she wrote was loving and tired and ordinary. The way you'd write about someone you've been with for years and are still fundamentally fond of, but also occasionally irritated by. She wrote about me being distant lately. She wrote about being worried I was sliding again. She wrote, I don't know how to bring it up without making him feel like he's being spied on. He'd feel like I was treating him like a patient. I sat on the floor of our bedroom and read that sentence 6 times. And the thing is, and this is the part I can't resolve, the part I keep running up against, no matter which way I approach it. The thing is, that's exactly what she would write. The real Sarah. That's her exact voice, her exact way of being careful with me. Whoever wrote that knows her, knows us. Which means either she wrote it, and I'm doing what I've always done, and I'm sick again, and I've been lying to everyone, including myself. Or whatever is in this house with me has had access to her long enough to know her well enough to write in her voice. I keep writing that down and reading it back, and I know I know how it sounds. I've been sleeping in the spare room for the past 4 nights. I told her it was because I've been having bad insomnia and I didn't want to keep her up. She brought me a glass of water the first night and stood in the doorway for a moment and looked at me with this expression that I've been trying to decode ever since. It wasn't hurt. It wasn't confused. It was something more like patient, like she was waiting. I don't know what she's waiting for. I've been out in the garden a lot this week, more than usual. Digging. We've been meaning to turn over the bed since autumn, so it's not strange. I have a reason to be out there, but I go out at odd hours. Early in the morning before she's up, or late when it's getting dark and I have to use my phone torch. I don't fully understand why I do it. The physical work helps me think, or maybe it helps me not think. I'm not sure which. The soil's soft from all the rain we had. Deep too, once you get past the first foot. Easier than I expected. I'm going to end this here because I have to get some sleep. I want to say to anyone who knows about this syndrome or has experience with it, or knows someone who's had it, I'm not looking for reassurance. I'm genuinely asking, is there a difference? Is there a point where you can look at it and say, no, this isn't the illness, this is real? Or is the illness specifically the thing that makes you think you've reached that point? I've been trying to figure that out for 6 weeks. I don't have to figure it out anymore. The house is so quiet tonight. That specific kind of quiet it hasn't had in weeks, since before all of this started. It, whatever it was, it isn't here anymore. I made sure of that a few hours ago. It put up more of a fight than I expected, which I think proves my point, actually. Sarah would never have done that. Sarah trusted me completely. I put her in the far corner of the garden, past the roses, where the soil was deepest and softest. It took a long time, and I'm exhausted. My hands are still dirty. I keep finding it under my fingernails. I don't feel bad about it. I want to be clear about that. I feel relieved. I feel like I've been holding my breath for 6 weeks, and I've finally been allowed to let it out. Wherever the real Sarah is, whatever that thing did with her, wherever it put her, I hope she knows I've never stopped looking for her. I hope she knows I figured it out. Most people wouldn't have. Most people would have just accepted the replacement and moved on and never known the difference. But I knew. I always knew. The garden looks tidy from the kitchen window. Neat, all turned over, like we always said we'd do before spring. She would have liked that, the real Sarah. She was always on at me to sort it out. I'm going to go wash my hands and go to bed. First full night's sleep I'll have had in months. I'll post an update when I'm feeling clearer. Thank you for listening to tonight's story. If you enjoyed it and would like to hear more horror narrations, you can follow Macabre Horror on Spotify, where I post new stories regularly. And if you'd like to help support the channel and keep these stories coming, you can join the Patreon. Free memberships are also available, and paid supporters also get access to bonus stories and other extras. All the links are in the description. Until next time, keep the lights low and the doors locked.